Tomorrow I go in for another surgery. I'm navigating the narratives that have come up this week as I prepare to have vocal cord surgery to remove a non-cancerous lesion. I will be going radio silent for a few days, up to maybe a week or more, as I recover and heal. I know I'm ready to have the full strength of my voice back, even if it means losing it completely for a while. I'm leaning into the softness this time, instead of allowing the voices of fear to speak louder than my soul. Things will look a little different in my content and work while I'm healing, but I'm still here, standing with you on your journey back to creation, imagination, and play beyond the crisis. I will relay a little more of the history near the end of this video. As always, thank you for watching and subscribing. Your support means the world to me as we journey this wild ride of life together.
Hello. Is it just really cold out there?
Okay guys, it's time to get real. So, as I sort of highlighted at the beginning of this video, I do have a surgical procedure tomorrow morning for my vocal cords. I don't know, sometimes people say they don't really notice, and that's awesome, but I notice. For the last almost 2 years, actually, I've been dealing with a sort of vocal nodule or something that's been sitting on my vocal cords and distorting my voice. It's created it to be like a gravelly voice. I joke about that I sound like an old lady smoker with like 50 cats. Not true. And you know what? No judgment at all meant. I just joke about that, where it's just this weird vocal sound that has changed dramatically since this started happening. At the time, my husband and I were in crisis, and so I developed what typically happens, and I've noticed this over the years, is a form of acid reflux that happens with stress for me. And so my doctor was convinced that it was related to acid reflux. It was like a laryngitis from that. And so she put me on like meds, and she was just doing what she thought she needed to do. But this is where I would say, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, advocate, advocate, advocate for yourself. So self-advocacy is crucial, especially with your health. And our healthcare systems, at least here in Ontario, Canada, are fairly saturated since COVID days. So even more now than ever, we need to advocate for ourselves when something is not quite right. So I pushed and pushed and pushed. And then she even got me in last summer for an endoscopy and a colonoscopy. So both ends had to be checked out and everything was normal. So talk about going through body trauma for really no real reason. However, I am glad that those procedures were done, because now I know I'm good to go. So I'm good to go in both ends. But this prompted me to call again to say I would really like to be referred to an ENT. So an ENT being an ear, nose, and throat specialist. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a lot of those here in Ottawa, Ontario, and so I had to be put on a wait list. So it was, again, another, I believe, almost a year wait. So yes, last March was when she put me on the wait list, and it was only January, this past January, that I was seen by an ENT. And then finally that doctor discovered this vocal lesion, which is non-cancerous, thankfully. So that is a very positive thing, because of course the first thing your mind goes to is, here we go again. I had to really watch the narratives this time, because I've been through a lot of health crises over the years. Obviously, I've talked about my 2-time cancer journey, but I've also, I've not really even talked about some of the other procedures I had to have done over the last couple of years. One of them being like a tooth extraction, an implant, which was just a whole other ball of joy. But yeah, there was just a couple other things that I needed to address. And, my body's been through a lot. So I really had to figure out how to reframe the narratives around this particular procedure happening tomorrow. And one of the things that I really wanted to focus on was, how do I draw upon like the Treehouse Principle, my own book, taking a page from my own book, and delving into the resources, the toolkits that I wrote for you guys into my own day. And so I wanted to talk about those, the sort of the top 3 things that I felt were ones that were going to be very important for me, right now and leading up to the procedure tomorrow morning. So one of those things being the nervous system regulation. And now nervous system regulation, it's really important to prioritize safety. So when you're going through something like this, even if it's just a minor health crisis, it's still, your body is designed for safety. So it's wired for safety, as you've heard me talk about before. So immediately it's going to go to that kind of flight or fight mode, right? So the importance of, like, the first thing I want to lean into are the narratives. And I'm going to watch the fear-based narratives. I'm going to watch going down the rabbit hole of Google and assessing things for myself. Now, I think there's something to be said about kind of educating yourself a little bit so that you can be prepared. But again, it's really important to be careful about the rabbit hole and firing information at yourself, especially when you're already kind of in a heightened state. So what the nervous system regulation could look like in these situations is going at a slower pace. So yes, I did some mindful movement this morning. I did do a little workout, but I did a gentle workout. Now that I only did that because I felt in my energy and in my body today that I was feeling good to do that. And I do want to ensure that my recovery is solid. It's supported. And so if my body is feeling my immune system's up and my body is feeling a little bit more strength in it, and I don't mean like strong, like, oh, fight everything. I mean like mindfully claiming the strength and the resilience that is in your body, but also leaning in and listening, right? So one of the things that I also recognize was the importance of some gentle yoga movements. So definitely have done that and will continue to support my body throughout the day-to-day hydration, rest when I need to. So it's about that slower pace instead of urgency, and it's really important. Now I'm very fortunate right now that I'm not in a corporate office anymore, so I'm able to be working from home, providing this content for you, and be able to do that in a space that provides me with that, the safety, the rest, the quiet. So I understand if, because I've been there, if you are in a corporate environment, it's not as easy to do that. I think it's then important to either take the time off the day before your procedure, and I don't think enough of us do that. And if you absolutely can't, take micro moments out of your day to check in with yourself and to speak to yourself kindly and speak through any of the narratives that come up and reframe those narratives. The other one, so number 2, would be the art of receiving. And what do I mean by that in this context? Well, what I mean is ask for help. Get the support you need. If you have friends or family or a partner that can help you through that time, lean on it. Don't try to be the strong person all the time. This is why we need one another, right? We need one another in the great times, but also in these times of navigating something with our health or something challenging. And so we need to lean into that support and not be afraid to ask I'm gonna call us Gen Xers out. We are not wired for asking for help. And so that has to change. That's a narrative that has to change. And then the last thing would be the creative mode. So tapping into that creative mode. Well, what does that mean? That means we tap into the creative sides of ourselves that we have available to us in that moment. It's softer. It doesn't mean that, again, and depending on what your work is, I urge you to take the time off that you need, depending on what type of procedure it is and what your healing will look like and what you've been told it's going to look like. Tap into the importance and the protection of your time and your energy and your healing space. It is crucial. So creating softly. So what that might mean is just like, maybe for what I'm going to do in the next few days is I go radio silent, because I will not have my voice available to me for a few days, maybe even up to a week, I'm not sure, while my vocal cords heal. And I'm also very excited about this as well. As much as I have a little bit of the apprehension, which is normal, but I'm processing that, I'm allowing that, and I'm acknowledging that kindly in my body and telling my body it's okay, I'm supported, and I do have a great team that will provide that care for me tomorrow. So, but I'm recognizing the importance of tapping into the slower creative sides of myself, so the more silent creative sides. So what you're probably going to see from me in the coming weeks are more quiet subtitle type vlog style content that is related to whatever's happening in life, how I'm healing, because I think that that's also pretty important to highlight, is taking you along for the journey. I never would have done this before, but this is about the visibility in the vulnerable times. And I will create a video about that in the future as well, how being visible is a vulnerable thing for a lot of people. And talking about our trauma is a visible thing, and it's very vulnerable, and it's very raw. So when we allow for that space and we allow for that healing period, we come back so much more restored and so much more ready for what is to unfold next and what we get to create next in our reality beyond, the health crisis or whatever it is that we're going through, whatever we're navigating. And so, yeah, thanks again for showing up and leaning in and listening and learning from my experiences so that you are able to apply it in your own life. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.